Hello, and welcome to Replay Value. Episode 5 is easily my favorite Hyouka episode in the first half of the show. I could honestly go through each and every scene talking about how brilliantly it's composed technically and narratively, and I kinda have already by talking about the opening 2 minutes and indeed the material I covered in the Sekitani Jun arc video. But I realized that I'd forgotten to break down arguably the most important moment in episode 5 and the first instance of the recurring aspect that I refer to as the Hyouka moment, because it comes from the discovery behind the name Hyouka. The sequence, in my opinion, starts when Chitanda asks specifically why the anthology is called Hyouka. Prior to this question, the focus of the vast majority of shots were wide, incorporating all 5 of the characters in the room. Kyoto Animation is very comfortable letting us sit on these wide shots, and then using close-ups to highlight specifics, which is exactly what happens with Chitanda's question. This shot, isolating the rest of the cast, is designed to make the audience wonder how many times the librarian has thought over the last 50 years what was meant by the word Hyouka. As we jump back to a more standard wide shot, Hotaro is missing from the shot, until we pan over to him, zooming in on him as he whispers, "Wakaranai," followed by a shot from Hotaro's perspective. This is a significant change. We went from group-focused to librarian-focused, and now to Hotaro-focused. She might not have the answer, but this change tells us before he even declares it that Hotaro knows. At this moment, track number 43 in the soundtrack comes on. I refer to it as a silent scream because my Japanese pronunciation is terrible, as my commenters like to frequently remind me. And I call it this because this is the scene in which it is best utilized. This track is beautiful and powerful, and it's one of the many examples of how Hyouka uses its score so brilliantly, not only in the scenes themselves, but also to convey meaning across different episodes. We get the inverse of that previous isolation shot of the librarian, now isolating Hotaro. He has knowledge that no one else does now, and this shot is perfect at making that clear. We pan from Hotaro's feet up to his head as we build towards the resolution, and to continue this trend of blocking the rest of the characters out of these shots. When we cut to the others, they're grouped together, but the closest any of them get to sharing the screen with Hotaro is when his leg is bouncing and Satoshi notices it. The leg bouncing causes ripples in his tea, calling us back to the opening 2 minutes, which signified this change. And indeed, this bouncing is also a change. He's visibly upset at himself for not having figured it out earlier, as well as the fact that apparently for the last 50 years this message has gone unnoticed. He slaps his leg down and asks the question that causes everyone to start to put it together. Finally, the rest of the club shares the screen with him, but it's only for a brief moment. The following shot cuts out Satoshi and Mayaka, as though Hotaro is trying to speak directly to Chitanda as he's answering her question. After Hotaro clarifies that it's a pun, Chitanda is now cut from the shot, with Satoshi realizing it first as he's closest to Hotaro before Mayaka recognizes the answer as well. As Hotaro hands Chitanda the meaning behind Hyouka, fulfilling his promise to her, the soundtrack swells, replacing any words spoken in that space with music instead to convey the story. As we cut out of that flashback, Chitanda is crying, some mix of nostalgia, joy, and sorrow. Chitanda and Hotaro are both standing as though they're alone without anyone else in the room, the sunset providing powerful lighting that makes a striking visual palette that is then joined by the striking sounds of her visualization. In all of the earlier flashbacks, both the librarians and Chitanda's, there were 0 sound effects, with the exception of the burning bonfire, just the OST and the voiceover. So for this visualization to suddenly feature sound effects, as raw as the chomping of flesh and bone, the horrific scream of Sekitani Jun as though it's been processed through a gramophone, and the thousands of stamps and bytes being layered across the audio track, it's practically a shock to the system. But as we fade to only young Chitanda crying, her voiceover as she recounts her feelings, and the last few notes of the song, we are left with pure silence and just a shot of Hotaro and Chitanda. And while the following shots remind us of the other's presence, everyone with a melancholic smile regarding what we've learned here, those two are the focus, as Chitanda thanks Hotaro, who dodges with his standard "I was just lucky," looking back at the sheet of paper Chitanda is holding. The meaning of Hyouka, the crappy pun, is "I scream," a message no one could hear trapped in time because Sekitani Jun didn't have the strength to vocalize it. That is the meaning behind Chitanda's tears, and that is the essence of the Hyouka moment, the voicing of a silent scream, and track number 43. Again, episode 5 is a masterpiece from top to bottom, in an already masterful show, and I'm sure I'll be breaking down more scenes and elements from it in the future. But for now, having already spoken about the opening 2 minutes and these close to closing 4, the conclusion to the Sekitani Jun arc creates a strong baseline from which we can look forward to the future episodes and the 2 upcoming arcs. Thanks for watching.